Hey, welcome to Aussie Online Growing on Shopify. This is episode number 93, and I'm calling it something like customers don't magically appear. It's usually a result of your consistent work, even when you don't know that it is. So customers don't just magically appear. Whether you have an online business or a bricks and mortar boutique or retail store, where you get physical foot traffic, customers don't just magically appear. It's likely the last sale you had from your Shopify store, your online business, wasn't an accident, even though sometimes we wonder if it was, like maybe it just came out of the blue. It's actually more likely a result of the consistent work you put in over time. But if we don't measure those results or investigate them even, or get a bit curious about where a sale may have come from, it can sometimes feel like it came out of the blue, or it was a bit of a mistake, or that customer like accidentally found us. Or sometimes we feel a bit the opposite, like we get a website set up and launch and we just expect and almost demand that traffic just should appear, like people should just find us. That's actually not the case in the online world. Maybe it used to be, like who knows, way back when at the dawn of the internet, perhaps that was more likely. But today, traffic does not just appear. You don't just get traffic to your website from nowhere. It takes your effort to drive that traffic, but equally, customers don't always just magically appear either. They usually have come to you from some very almost systematic pathways. Like it's not a linear pathway, so it's not like a straight line from one end to the next, like from not knowing you to suddenly discovering you and buying something. It's not like a straight line, but there's usually a journey or a path that once you start to look for it and kind of identify it for yourself in your own business, you can see it more and more. The more customers you look at or the more analytics you look at, it starts to become familiar to you. And that's when you can start to take control of it. So you can start to decide and manipulate in a good way those customers, that traffic for your own business, and start to expect certain results based off the effort you are putting in, and you're probably already putting in. But if you're putting in effort into your online business, but you don't know what effort is worthwhile or what effort is working, or if you're not measuring those efforts, it's hard to know what's worthwhile. But also sometimes then if we do get a sale, it can feel like it just came out of the blue, or a customer just magically appeared sort of out of thin air, and we kind of don't know how they got to that point. Where did they come from? So then it feels difficult to repeat that process. It feels hard to know that we can take control of that for ourselves in our own business, and you totally can. So I have built a couple of Shopify brands now. I did my first one in 2020. I sold that last year. So I now just have one brand instead of two, and I will be starting another one at some point. It's a bit on the back burner now. I had committed to doing that this year at some point. I don't know if I can see that happening. We'll see what happens as the year continues on. But I can set up strategies for your own business. I can unravel that traffic. I can find out where it's come from for you. I can give you some formulaic strategy steps to ensure that you know where your customers are coming from and the best way to get those customers to you, so that then you can set goals for yourself, revenue goals. You can set traffic goals, awareness goals. You can set some sort of conversion goal. You can kind of like predict your inventory. Like how good is that to be able to kind of know what your sell-through rate is of your products, or what products you're going to need in 6 months' time, or how much traffic you should be driving for yourself now to expect a certain amount of sales in a month's time. So all of this sits inside a marketing funnel. That's no surprise. I talk about that a lot, and any online sales sort of Facebook ad specialist or e-commerce expert will talk about similar. So customers do go through a marketing funnel. So they start at the top of a funnel where they're aware of you and they learn about you, they discover who you are, and then through different steps they move further and further down the funnel to a purchase at the end. And then ultimately, even better, is they become a repeat buyer and they purchase again from you. But for the sake of this episode, I really wanted to come from the angle of, if you feel like a customer just appeared, or that sale just popped up out of nowhere, then that's probably not true. You probably need to give yourself more credit for the consistent work and the work you are putting in, that it does actually make a difference. It does snowball and it does build on each other to build a business. Those efforts are for a reason, and someone doesn't just find you accidentally. And the same is true. You can't just set up a website or a Facebook ad account or, your social media accounts and not take any control of the traffic for yourself and just expect people to magically appear. I'll give you an example that's just really recent for me, which is this podcast. In the last 2 months, I've been putting consistent effort and money into socials and to creating clips and building out the social accounts and some more lead generation efforts than I had for the last 18 months, which was always sort of on the card. So I've decided to make that a priority in the last 2 months. So it will be for the rest of the year for me, is monetizing this podcast. So putting that consistent effort in for 2 months, I see the results now. So it's no surprise that when you put in effort and consistent effort over time, it does benefit your business. It will grow your business. So one very pervasive myth in e-commerce and amongst small business owners, especially in the online world, is we believe sometimes that customers will magically appear once our business is up and running. This can make us really frustrated or disappointed in the results when we don't know what to expect and don't know that we have some control over those. So your conversion rate actually makes a big difference to these results, in the sense of, I don't want you to spend hours like tweaking tiny things on your website to increase your conversion rate, unless you're a giant business, in which case that will financially be beneficial. But if you're small and you've only been doing this for, a handful of years, maybe up to 10 years, I don't know that those efforts are really a well use of your time or a good use of your time. But what is a good use of your time is understanding that a conversion rate of around 1%, which is probably usual, it's usual in Australia for sure with e-commerce, is actually pretty good. In other words, somebody's going to have to come and see you a lot of times before they actually make a purchase. And your job is to be able to increase those number of times that they come and see you to make a purchase. So if you are very small and brand new, 1% can be a long way off, because like with this podcast, me starting to put some effort into socials and this podcast, if I'm starting out with a lot of content, I've been recording episodes for 18 months, but I haven't done anything with those episodes, then to get to that 1% from zero, that's a lot of effort on my part to be able to get the volume up to mean that 1% equals something significant. Does that make sense? So if you have 100 people come to your website in one day, maybe one of them will buy. That's conversion rate of 1%. But if you only have 5 people coming to your website at the moment in a day, guess what? 1% is a long way off to one sale. At the moment, you've got like 0.5% of a sale or something. Do you know what I mean? Like, you need a big volume to reach 1% even equaling the sale, which is where then we can wonder if the efforts we're putting in don't seem like perhaps they're not worthwhile, because you can't measure the 30 days you did on social media. Why didn't it get me more sales? Maybe the 30 days you did on social media actually got you 2 sales, which doesn't seem like much. But if you already have a small audience, those 2 sales could be 10% conversion for you. Does that make sense? So you need to really take into account the size of your overall business to begin with, to really understand that customers who do find you and will come to you, and that you are taking control of helping them discover who you are and finding you, it may be a better result than what you think it might be when you look at the mathematics of it. If we get too caught up in how it feels, we can feel like that was a waste of time. A friend of mine did a giveaway recently with her business, and I think she said she was disappointed with the result of that giveaway, because she noticed she may have got a couple of sales in a few weeks when she ran a giveaway, and then a couple more over the following month. And so she felt like it was a waste of time. But then 6 months later, she went and pulled a report from Shopify and from Google Analytics and Klaviyo, I think, because she did a lot of that through email, of course, pulled those stats from that same cohort of people who had entered that giveaway 6 months earlier, and found that that group of people converted at 5%, which is 5 times the average of an e-commerce website. So that's actually incredible, but it doesn't feel like it sometimes at the time, because if the volume is small, then 5% will even seem small. But if your volume is small, then 1%, which is usual, will feel like nothing, but it's not actually nothing. It's actually a very reasonable expected fabulous result. So that was my intro. It's really long. That was just an intro. Let me get into some actual things I want to share with you after I've just blabbed on with the intro part of it. So if you have a bricks and mortar or a retail boutique or store, then to think about the type of people that come through the door, this seems much more tangible because customers don't appear from nowhere. Actual physical people have to walk into your store. So it doesn't feel like as much of an accident, and you probably feel like more that you need to be like driving that because people need to actually walk through the door. When we're an online business owner, we can sometimes just sit back and kind of feel like it should just come to us, that the traffic should just appear. It's the internet. Everybody's there. There's millions of us. They should just appear, but they don't appear. It's usually because you have put effort into it. And then the sale you did get yesterday or the day before or the 4 you'll get tomorrow are usually not out of nowhere. They're not out of the blue. It's because of the consistent effort you've put in over time. So there can be a disconnect between the online world and the physical world in that sense, because if you have a store or if you're sitting at a craft fair and you're watching people walk by, it feels much more gritty and like raw because the people are actually there and you need to kind of get them to come to you, as it does when you've got a website. It doesn't quite feel the same. You just assume they're just going to show up. So let's just have a look here. I want to talk to you about a couple of things. Let me look at my little notes here and see. So customers don't just magically appear. Visibility requires our effort, and you're probably putting this effort in already. But like I shared with that example of someone who'd done a giveaway and didn't realize till 6 months later, when they had written the whole idea off as useless, actually went back and looked at the stats. It was a really worthwhile effort and project and worth their time based off of that customer cohort who entered the giveaway at the time, and then looking at them 6 months later to see what happened with those people. So visibility for your website and your online brand also requires your effort. Just because your store exists does not mean people are going to find you. The internet is vast. It's huge. You need to be proactive. You need a marketing budget. You need an advertising budget. If you're a business, you need a budget for advertising. You need to be pushing those people to your website and taking control of that and responsibility of that. So you need to be doing some sort of paid effort, and you need to be making sure your socials and your organic socials are really built out well. You should also be doing some sort of basic SEO. So last week's episode all about my steady growth like umbrellas, my 4 umbrellas for steady growth in e-commerce is very similar to this episode. Those sort of 4 umbrellas help me define what's important work in my business. What's important work in your business? What do you feel like is important work and feel like? No, not what you feel like. What do you know is important work in your business? Are you doing SEO, basic SEO work? Are you doing email marketing? Are you doing Facebook ads? Are you doing organic socials? Are you seeing people face to face? Are you building trust with people over time? Because you potentially are doing many of those things. And then we can sometimes wonder where a sale came from when we suddenly get a sale. And it's hard to wonder where it came from. We're like, where did that person come from? I wish I knew what worked and what didn't work. I always go to Google Analytics. I always look in Google Analytics. I love to look at the amount of time someone spent on the site. That's probably my favorite metric inside of Google Analytics is the traffic that did come to my website. How long were they on the website for? What's their engaged amount of session time? And no surprise, you'll see that usually traffic from Google is much more engaged. So you'll get much longer session times from Google than from other places, which makes perfect sense. People go on Google to search for something. They are looking for the intent to find a problem solved or like a solution to their problem or to purchase something they need. So often traffic from Google is really great. It's usually engaged traffic. Sessions can be longer on your website than, say, social media and other avenues like, Etsy or wherever other places people might come from, Pinterest or whatever other avenues. But Google traffic can often be really great. So I do find that in the back of Google Analytics. You may find that too, but you won't know that unless you go look at your own account and look at your own traffic and see how long people are on your website for and where they came from when they spent that amount of time with you. You can get really expensive third-party plugins for Shopify that will decipher all of that murky, data that's hidden behind privacy walls these days to really pull together one user and the journey they took from when they first started to when they finally purchased, where they came from, and all that sort of stuff. You can get quite granular with that sort of information, but I don't know how much it serves you except to just be really expensive. And I don't know. When you're early on, I'm not even sure it's worth me spending that sort of money on my website at this stage. I'm very happy with what my Facebook Ads Manager tells me. Compare that with my Shopify dashboard. Compare that with Google Analytics. Gives me a really good picture of where customers are coming from and how long they take to pop in and out of the website and to click on an email or to shop around and browse, and they disappear and then they come back again. So if you got a sale on your website today or yesterday or 10 of them, the day before yesterday, they probably came from your consistent effort over time. It wasn't a mistake. The work you are doing is making a difference. You are building a business. Like I said, it's just that if we make a small change or we test or try something, unless you have a very large audience to begin with, the conversion rate can seem like it doesn't actually equate to a decent amount of sales. It feels like it's worthwhile. Like with the giveaway example, if you have a giveaway and you run a giveaway and you've got an established brand, you've been around for 10 years, you run a giveaway, you get like 4,000 people enter, you will feel much more validated that was a worthwhile exercise, because the number of sales you can probably get off the back of that with some email marketing will feel like a good chunk of cash. So it's kind of like, oh, that was a bit of a bump. It's obviously from the giveaway. And then when you look at your analytics 6 months later, you'll probably feel confirmed that was the case. But when you're brand new, or if you have a very small audience and you get one sale off the back of some emails from a giveaway that you ran, it can feel like it was a waste of time. But if you had 50 people enter the giveaway, that is still an amazing conversion rate for standard e-commerce. It's higher than just regular traffic to your website. You just don't know that till you go and look at the data. Let me quickly share with you, because I am really gone off on a tangent from my notes here. My notes are like not being followed at all. I've left out heaps of stuff, but I feel like I'm prattling on now and I don't want to just like keep rambling on to you. Let me quickly share with you though, when's the last time you looked in your Shopify dashboard at your conversion summary? Go and check some recent orders, and then on the right-hand side under the shipping address, you see there's a little conversion summary window. I love that window. I look at it a lot. I find it really encouraging and interesting to see the conversion summary of customers, and particularly when it's their first order. I like to go look at customers for their very first order and see that little conversion summary window and see what it tells me about my business and where things are happening and how long it takes somebody to know, like, and trust my brand before they decide to part with their cash. So go look at yours after this episode. You may find it really insightful. I looked at mine. I did an episode about this about a year ago, so I haven't looked at it in great detail and looked at lots of data since and done an episode about it. I pulled up a few little windows of some customers' very first order. I only looked at first time customers, not returning. My returning customer rate on Shopify is very high. So I only pulled out first time purchases, so first time customers, to see what it said. So I looked at one and it said total sessions 1, and they took 1 day to convert. They came from Facebook. Great, amazing, very happy with that, and it should do, because my Facebook ad campaigns are performing really well. I've been really pleased for the last month how well they've been performing, so I'm happy to see that that's paying off. So 1 session for this customer's first time shopping purchase, they took 1 day to convert. They came from Facebook. The next one I looked at was 10 sessions, another customer. It took them returning 8 times in the last 7 days. So they did 10 sessions total and they have purchased now, but they have returned 8 times in the last 7 days. How interesting is that? That tells you about how they come to you, where they see you again, then they see you again, then they see you again. And one of the sessions was from an email, I can see here. So it does give me the UTM parameter as well, so I can see they came from an email. There was social in there too, so it's super interesting, makes perfect sense, just validates what I do and why I do it, and the system, for revenue that works. The next one was a 1 day to convert. So first session from Google. They went to Google on the first day, they shopped, they purchased the first day. So they probably did a Google search, were looking for something specific, or they're in the mood to shop, someone local, and they found me. That's it. Google shopped, found me, shopped. It was great. So 1 day, first session shop. So I was very happy with that. And you could attribute that to many things. That can be partly Facebook too, because people like to see an ad on Facebook and they won't click on it. And then they'll go to Google and look up your brand. Or they found me on a blog post, or they did a search for some products and some of my products popped up. Yeah, or like I said, they did a question or a how-to search or a query search, and then one of my blog posts showed up for them. So that's really cool. Another one was, this is really cool, took 4 sessions over 21 days. So one customer in the last few days, they first found me on Facebook in July and it took them 21 days to shop, like on backwards and forwards, 4 different sessions over 21 days they finally bought. And then the next one was, it took 3 sessions over 1 day. So they found me the first day, then they came back and then came back and then came back again. So they shopped, they popped in and out a few times over the 1 day and finally bought. And then the last one I want to share with you is 9 sessions over 18 days. So this customer first found me on Facebook. They returned like 7 times and it took them 18 days to finally make a purchase. And one of those was from Facebook, they converted. They might be on my email list. I didn't go look at the details of the actual person, but 9 sessions over 18 days. So you can see how there's many, a customer's journey is varied from 1 day to 20 whatever days I said there in this example of what I pulled. But the point is that customers don't magically appear once you set up a website. And the same is true that a customer probably didn't magically appear and the sale didn't magically appear out of nowhere. And you're wondering what happened. It was probably because of your consistent effort in showing up in many ways to that potential customer or lead over time that then became a sale. And then now becomes the potential for a returning customer and returning revenue and lifetime value of a customer over time. So remember, it is our responsibility to drive this traffic to our online store. So there are ways to drive traffic. I'll do another episode about that down the track, maybe next week, about different tips and tricks on driving your own traffic to your website. But FYI, the ones that are worth doing will take your time and your money to do. If you're a legit business, you're looking to grow a legit brand, you want people to know, like, and trust you and discover your brand, find you. You want shoppers to find you. You don't need bots to find you. You don't need just cheap clicks on social media that are people that live, I don't know, in Antarctica who are never going to shop with you because they can't buy from you anyway. Like, not all traffic is created equal. And I'll talk about that in another episode. But that's why I think Google Analytics is so key, to be able to look in the back and sort of look at the amount of time somebody spent on your website based off of where they came from. Gives you a really interesting insight. But as a whole, overall, I just encourage you that if you got a sale yesterday or last week, or if you got 50 of them on Monday, they didn't come from nowhere. It's not out of the blue. You are putting in effort. You need to be able to investigate those efforts and do some sort of like data sort of mining on them a little bit. Like, don't get crazy, but enough to validate to yourself as a business owner that you know what effort is worth your time and what builds your business over time, what gets you a customer to see you and see you and see you again, and start to begin that process of getting to know you as a brand, and then they purchase from you. Sometimes straight away, more often than not, it's over 5 days, 7 days, 28 days, 35 days, and things like that, which is why these various ways of looking at it is really key, and not to get too caught up in how we feel about it, because the customer's journey, like I said, is pretty predictable. It's not linear, it's not straight, but most customers go through that same process of starting at the top of the funnel of discovering us and then sort of seeing us again and again and coming back again and again till they purchase from us. So your efforts are making a difference. I encourage you to head to my website. You can actually book a discovery call for free on my calendar. Let's chat about your business and see how I can support you in getting some predictable traffic and some predictable revenue, and get the ball of string, the messy ball of string that is your Facebook ad account unraveled for you, so you can understand what goes on in the back of Facebook for your business and get it to be more systematic and more measurable and get you some more revenue and some more customers over time. You can find me, of course, at Aussie Online Growing on shopify.com.au. As always, as an entrepreneur, keep learning.